Welcome back to another episode of the Pax What She Said podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Maggie Loney, joined as always by Perry Goldstein. Packers back at Lambeau Field this week, hosting the Chicago Bears, first in the NFC North. Just honestly, the most intense rivalry game I think we've seen in probably, I don't know what, the NFC Championship game in 2010. Like, it's been a long
Yeah.
time since a game has mattered this much, and then we'll do it again in 2 weeks.
Yeah. This is a real rivalry for the first time in quite a while, which is fun. It's definitely fun. We have said it when Caleb was drafted. If Caleb ends up being good, it will be fun. But now they're fighting for the division, which I don't know that I would have predicted at the beginning of this season. We certainly thought the Bears would be better, but Ben Johnson has done a great job developing these guys since he came in and getting them up for games. They've won a lot of close games, but I think what they're doing well is finding ways to win. So should be a good one.
Yeah, and I really quickly, before we dive into this one, want to talk about the elephant in the comment section of our YouTube video, and that is that we picked the Packers to lose against Detroit. And I just want to put out there that Perry and I do something called the reverse jinx, where if we pick the Packers to lose, they don't lose. It happened against the Steelers as well. But I will say that reverse jinx is going to stop because I will never in my life pick the Packers to lose against the Bears. The Bears could be like 15-1 and the Packers could be like 3-12, and I still just never ever would pick the Bears. So
spoken like a true old school Wisconsin based fan. I think my distaste for the Bears is like tempered because I didn't grow up in Wisconsin. And I didn't grow up around Bears fans, but yeah, I don't know that we're going to be doing a reverse jinx. It's not that we mean to, by the way. We genuinely believe that the Packers are going up against these very good teams that they might lose to. However, to your point, I will always take the Packers at home.
And I mean, I think that the sample size now is better for this Packer team against good opponents. But yeah, if you would have said last season, like the Packers didn't win division games, right? Like they go in on Thanksgiving and they lose if they're last year's football team. So to have the stacked success that they have against really good playoff caliber football teams this year is promising. And that's why going into Sunday's game this is a big one. You know, we've got the 9-3 Bears that are coming in. Caleb Williams has his one win at Lambeau last season and, the last week of the season. Ben Johnson has a really good record against the Packers as the offensive coordinator of the Lions. So, I can see why Bears fans are excited for this one. And as much as the Packers defense stacked up really well against the Lions and kind of what they wanted to run, I think this is a tough one for the Packers. I think that the Bears and just how they operate this offense, I certainly am more concerned about Caleb Williams and his ability to evade pressure than I would have been about Jared Goff. However, I'm less concerned about Caleb Williams hanging in and finding his targets than maybe I would have been with Jared Goff. So it's kind of like a pick your poison, I think.
Yeah, they're definitely extremely different quarterbacks and extremely different opponents, although both have excellent run games. And the Packers did a pretty good job mitigating Jahmyr Gibbs. So,
yeah,
100%. So I think, we're diving right into it, but I feel like that's the key, is stopping the run. And to your point, Caleb's having a much, much better season. He's obviously increasing his accuracy. He's increasing his, reading through each of the reads and then deciding to take off instead of taking off being his, immediate instinct. But he's not quite there yet. And so the Packers can do, I think, a good amount of damage, especially if this pass rush stays at its heights that it's been at. That's going to be something I'm watching for, is the pass rush v. Caleb Williams, because, they will take down a more static quarterback quite easily, which we have seen. But he has the fun wrinkle of being able to use his legs, and it's not just getting to the quarterback, but also containing by the defensive front for this offense. So will be interesting to see how it goes. I'm sure they are, trying to design up ways to move the ball away, far, far, far away from Micah Parsons as humanly possible. And we'll just have to see what Jeff Hafley has schemed up as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that there is always the running joke of the Bears being the off-season champs, but I thought that what they did this off-season was impressive, right? You go out and you get like the best coach of the candidates. They shore up that offensive line, which, last season Caleb Williams led the lead, sacked 68 times, which is like hard to fathom thinking about taking that many sacks in a season. Through 12 games, he's been sacked 19 times only this season. So like that is vastly improved. And yes, the Packers now have Micah Parsons, but you're losing Devontae Wyatt for the season, right? That
Yeah.
ankle injury that he suffered in Detroit was season ending. Packers brought in Ross Blacklock on a workout today as a defensive lineman, but it seems like help is what's in house, right? You've got Carl Brooks, Colby Wooden, Warren Brinson is going to be playing a lot more, I think, than they expected of their late round rookie. Nazir Stackhouse, an undrafted rookie, also will likely see his snaps increase. And I'm sure the Packers will get creative. They've been using Micah Parsons over the nose quite a bit to generate some pressure, but everybody's going to have to play a role, right? Lucas Van Ness, if he's able to come back. I think they said that Brenton Cox, his, 3-week window was activated to return from IR. And, not one of these guys is going to be the magic fix, but it's going to take everybody to mitigate, what had been a really successful run defense this season and that loss of Devontae Wyatt.
Yeah, absolutely. The interior of the defense has to just like next man up right now and step up. Or, getting Quay back, I think will also be extremely beneficial just to clean up the gaps. And obviously he's the top tackler on the team. I want to talk. I feel like no one ever talks about the Bears offense through the air.
Okay.
And I don't know why. I mean, I know what I have hunches why, but like I'm curious your thoughts on what kind of coverage Jeff Hafley is going to potentially call in this one. Like I know everyone talks about the run game as they should and Caleb Williams using his legs as they should, but his last few games, Ravens, Bengals, Giants, so take those defenses what you will. He's had 220 plus yards, one of those 285 and 280. And then, I mean, against the Bengals, he had 3 touchdowns, a little less against the Vikings, which was, interesting. And then 239 against the Steelers, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. But then against this Eagles defense, 154, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So my deduction here is that against better defenses, he's struggling a little bit more naturally and turning the ball over. He turned the ball over against the Ravens. He turned the ball over against the Saints. The Raiders have Max Crosby and the Lions earlier this season. So he's protecting the football decently well, but also struggling against some of those better defenses, which I would like to say the Packers are.
Yeah, I mean, you said at pre-show that Ben Johnson had said that this is arguably the best defense that the Bears will see or have seen so far this season, which we saw the Eagles just clamp down on the Lions and the Packers offenses and hold them to 10 or under points. So interesting for Ben Johnson to say that about this Packers front. And I think what makes these defenses so juxtaposed this season is that statistically, the Bears aren't like lighting up any of the metrics outside of that turnover differential. They're first in the league in takeaways. Obviously, they're plus 17, which is phenomenal. It seems like every week they are generating multiple turnovers. However, they're 25th in points allowed per game. They are 15th in passing yards per game. They're 22nd in passing yards per game allowed on defense. They're 28th in rushing yards allowed per game. So it's weird to have the success that they've had generating those turnovers. And I think that's why it's such a volatile statistic, because if the Packers are able to protect the football, they should be able to move it against this Bears defense. So I think that is kind of the takeaway from this is limit the takeaways if you're the Packers offense. And I think you want your defense against this Bears offense to try to snag one as well, because an extra opportunity with the football for the Packers offense could go a long way.
Yeah, well, he's not really turning the ball over. That's the
Right.
thing, is that he only has 5 interceptions so far on the season. But a completion percentage of 58.1, which is quite low, I think,
Mhm.
which says a lot about either their passing attack or these receivers that he has. Um, yeah, I guess we can switch over to the Packers offense against this defense. And I mean, the biggest is, you said it, they're just first in takeaways. So they're giving up yards, they're giving up points. The Packers are still, if not the best, one of the best on third down. The Packers offense looks like it's come alive the last few weeks. And I genuinely think if they just play their brand of football and protect the football, they'll be able to get what they need to out of this Bears defense. It's when they make a mistake, fumble, interception, whatever it may be. And Jordan's done an excellent job protecting the football this season as well. That you give, the Bears that opportunity, because they will snag it. But I really just think it's protect the football and
Yeah.
blossom.
There was a crazy stat, and I don't have it in front of me. Okay. Jordan Love in week 11 or later in his career as a starter. I don't know if you saw this. He's 14-5. So this is weeks 11 or later in those two, and now what will be his third season. His touchdown to interception ratio is 34-2. And then his passer rating is 110.5. And that touchdown to interception ratio and that passer rating ratio are the best all time in weeks 11 or later. And I know that's why the Toyotathon joke kind of came to fruition, is because when you are looking, to stare down the playoff push in the latter half of the season, you get into the cold months. That's when he seems to kind of come into his own and settle in and get really comfortable. So hopefully, we see more of that trend on Sunday. But yeah, this is still the best third down offense in the league, fourth on fourth downs, third in red zone offense. And Jaden Reed is really close. I don't know if he'll
Yeah.
play. We're recording this on Thursday evening or Tuesday evening, so we don't have an injury report just yet. But Jaden Reed is close. Matthew Golden, I think, potentially could be back for this one. So that's an additional weapon. And the Bears secondary is just kind of an enigma to me, because they have talented football players, but they also are living or dying, it feels like, by those turnovers. So you have to think, if they're not capitalizing on the takeaways, these are the games that they're not going to be as successful in.
Right. I mean, the question really is if the Bears can't get a takeaway, can this offense drive down the field every single drive and score against this Packers defense? And my money is on no.
Yeah.
Based on the way that this defense has been playing. So you have an offense that's really finding its stride right now, who can 10, 12 play drive down the field, but also take the top off and score very quickly, which we finally saw against the Lions. Jordan Love and Christian Watson connect. So they're dual threat with an excellent defense that their coach trusts. I am very curious to see how aggressive Matt LaFleur is in this game.
Yeah.
I think it certainly will depend on the situation. I can see it going either, like, many different directions, especially with the way this defense is playing. But that's also one thing that I'm watching for, because I like you said it, the Bears are a very strange team, and I feel like this game could go a wacky different ways. But Matt's been calling some great games the last 3 weeks in their win streak, so trust it.
Yeah. And I mean, to kind of further that point about takeaways, in their 3 losses this season, 2 of those 3 losses, they didn't have a turnover on defense. Their only other loss was week 1 against the Vikings, and they had 1 turnover. And that was just such a weird fluky game in the beginning for the Vikings to come back at the end of that one, and win by a field goal. But yeah, I think that, they're very reminiscent of the Packers a couple years ago, where they were just producing turnovers as an incredibly high rate. But then when you aren't giving your offense extra cracks at it, the deficiencies come out. And that's not to say that this Bears team isn't a good football team. I don't think anybody really expected them to go into Philly and perform the way that they did. Like, there's no more metric about they haven't beat anyone good, right? They did beat a very good football team. They beat a playoff team. So we can put that to bed. We're not ragging on the Bears this episode, but I do think that this Packers team will have opportunities. And I think it's going to be a pretty evenly matched game. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that both of these teams have glaring weaknesses that are exploitable by the other team. Like they match up really well with each other's deficiencies, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Some other fun wrinkles. I mean, I think we know Lucas Van Ness is also not playing in this game. Unfortunately, that foot is just not there. But the Packers did designate Marshawn Lloyd to come
Yeah.
off IR. Doubtful he plays in this game, but I would love to see what he does. You mentioned Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed. I guess we'll find out where everyone stands in this week's injury report. However, I find it kind of fun to keep an opposing team on their toes about what kind of weapons are going to be available to the Packers. They look great without all of them. They certainly are excelling without them, especially when you have a Christian Watson game, you have a Dontavian Wicks game. Dobbs is always Dobbs, and the run game looks a lot closer to what we expected at the start of the season with the way Josh Jacobs was running behind Anthony Belton and Zach Tom. So they're getting stronger and then also have this additional piece of getting 3 new weapons available to them, which I find fun and must make game planning for them very difficult, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And not to go backwards, but I have the dope sheet in front of me, the Packers Bears dope sheet, and it says that the Packers have 18 zero giveaway divisional games since 2019, which ranks first in the NFL in that span. They're 17-1 in those contests. So when we're talking about the importance of turnovers and takeaways in this game, historically against division rivals, the Packers have been protecting the football incredibly well in Matt LaFleur's tenure. And I think this game is a lot more interesting now, of course, knowing how this Packers team is performing against playoff caliber football teams. We talked about it a lot already going into these division games. They were 1-5 last season, likely could have gone 0-6 in the division. So to be 3-0 in the driver's seat with a tiebreaker on the line, I think whoever wins this game wins the North. And you could argue that, yes, there's more coming in 2 weeks at Soldier Field, which, putting that out there now, there was a scheduling change. That game has been moved to Saturday night. So that'll be a 7:20 Central Time kickoff at Soldier Field in 2 weeks, week 16. But yeah, I mean, I think this one is kind of for all the marbles as far as the winner of the division, who likely will have the second seed in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean the game should be flexed. It's absolutely going to be, a division for the division game. I don't know that I necessarily agree that this one is for the division because I think that if they end up splitting it, it's still anyone's game. In the splitting the contest 1-1. However, it says a lot more. I mean, you want to win your home games, I guess is the point that I'm giving. It says a lot more if the Bears win this one, I think, than if the Packers win this one, unfortunately, because they're home. I will say though, now that you've mentioned, future games, the Bears schedule, not easy. Definitely not easy. They have the same level of difficulty in schedule as the Packers, which is also a very interesting piece of this back and forth. But they have the Browns, which that I think of all the games, that should be the one that they win. Although the Browns defense is the Browns defense. They play the Packers again. They play the 49ers, who
In
are
San Fran.
in San Francisco, which somehow are still in it. Don't know how, despite all of their injuries. Hate them.
That is a night game as well. It's going to be a really good primetime game.
I literally hate that team so much. And then they play the Lions, who may or may not be fighting for a playoff spot at that point, depending on how the rest of their schedule goes. So no gimmies, certainly no gimmies. None of them will be easy. There will be no resting the starters in week 18, I think, for anybody right now in the NFC North, except for the Vikings. Sorry, that didn't mean to be a dig. I was just me being serious. And so a lot can still go in the Packers' favor via the Bears losing. The Packers just have to focus on winning the games that are ahead of them. But we all know, we've said, they have a tough schedule coming up as well with the Broncos, the Bears, the Ravens, and then the Vikings again. So Start with this one. I guess is the short version of everything that I just said in summary. Start with this one, win it at home, keep going.
Yeah, and I think to me that is the only reason I say that this one could be potentially quote unquote for the North is that if you win this one, you kind of eliminate the tie-breaking scenarios with the Bears. Like right now the Bears are 1-2 and the Packers have already gone 3-0 in the division. So you win this one and you're automatically 4-0 in the
Mhm.
division. So even if you were to drop one to the Bears, you're looking at 4-2 or 5-1 to round out the division. So I think it really kind of comes down to that tie, honestly. Like that could either be the catalyst that gives them the win because it counts as one less loss, or it gives them a wild card because it counts as one less win. So that I think is going to factor into things. And the
Yeah.
NFC is incredible. I know the AFC is kind of jockeying for position, but it seems kind of like some of the usual suspects are in this one, except right now it's weird to not see the Chiefs in that playoff picture. But you've got the Packers and the Bears both represented. The Lions technically could sneak in. They would need like 10 or 11 wins, and even that isn't a guarantee for a 7th seed, which is bananas. But then
Crazy.
you've got the Seahawks, 49ers, and the Rams. So, of course, the 49ers are going to be playing absolutely lights out football to try and secure their spot as well. You've got the Eagles, but the Cowboys are kind of sneaking into things, and they have that same tie-breaking scenario with the Packers, and they already hold the tiebreaker against the Eagles, having beat them once already this season. So it's really just the NFC South,
Yeah.
but it's always the NFC South.
It's
Everybody's like,
always
just what's going on
the Panthers
with
are
them?
somehow in the hunt.
Yeah, absolutely. They're right there in it. So
Not to belabor this point, but the Lions do not have an easy schedule the rest of the season either
no,
at all.
starting with
Um,
Thursday night.
yeah, they have the Cowboys coming, which the Cowboys, like you said, are kind of sneaking in. They're on the up and up. Certainly, Dak looks insane. Dak is third right now in the MVP race betting. If you look at the sports books, just saying. And then they go to LA to play the Rams, who are easily the best team in the NFC right now. Then they're home against the Steelers, who also may be fighting for their life in the playoffs in the AFC standings.
Aaron Rodgers win one last time in Detroit.
In Detroit, beautiful. They play the Vikings, who is, I guess, everybody's easy win at the moment. Sorry, Vikings. And then the Bears in week 18. And yeah,
Can't feel good about it. And then, of course, the Frank Ragnow news that he came in and
you
failed his
can't.
physical, so he can't
Yeah.
return. So their offensive line is just as decimated as it was. No help on the way there.
It's
Yeah.
it's it's a lot of teams fighting for unfortunately fewer spots than there are good teams in the NFC. And
Which is what you want. But
surely, yes, because when you get to the playoffs, it's going to be the best of the best. And these teams will have likely, for the most part, played each other at some point this season, especially if you have repeats in the West and the North. But it's going to be pretty frustrating for whoever's on the outside looking in because a very good team is going to not make the playoffs this year.
yeah, this certainly isn't like a 9-8 team that is sitting out and you're like, okay, well, they were right around 500. I cannot in my memory, and maybe you have a sharper mind than me with this, but I can't remember a time where we've been in week 13, week 14, and there have been this many really, really good football teams vying for playoff spots. Like normally you kind of have like the division leaders, you've got like the 5th seed locked and loaded, and you've got a couple teams that are fighting for like the 6th and 7th seed. This feels like any seed is open. And we
Mm-hmm.
talked about it a little bit on the before we hit record, but if the Bears win this, they're maintaining the number 1 seed regardless. But if the Packers win, Seattle jumps into the 1 seed unless the Rams win and then they get the 1 seed. And then, the Packers have the tiebreaker against the Eagles. So even if the Eagles win with the Packers winning, they're the 2 seed and the Eagles are the 3 seed. Like everything is jockeying right now.
Yeah. Never has it felt like there's multiple teams in each division who could make the playoffs. I think that's the big difference for me is like 3 of the 4 divisions in the NFC have 2 or more teams. And at this point the South too, right? Like
Yeah.
the Panthers are right on the Bucks heels to
And the
have 2
Bucks
or
are
more.
very injured.
They
Like,
are. They should get some help back soon. I heard Mike Evans could begin practicing again, but I read it on Twitter. I don't have any insider knowledge. And but that's the part that stands out to me the most is like there are 3 teams in the West, there are 3 teams in the North, there are 2 teams in the East, and there are 2 teams in the South that
yeah,
all have like an actual like statistical opportunity to make it into the playoffs. That's bonkers.
yeah. There's only a couple teams that have been eliminated at this point. Like, that is what makes it so crazy too. Is that it's basically like the Cardinals, the Saints, and the Giants are the only teams that have statistically been eliminated, which seems weird to say when you've got the Commanders and the Vikings, like, and the Falcons. Yes, they all have a less than 1% chance, but statistically, it is probable.
Yeah.
Um, I guess at this point in the show, we should talk about score predictions.
I don't have one other than because like I could see this being very low scoring with both defenses playing exceptionally well. I could see this being a little bit more high scoring. I just know in my gut that this is going to be very close. It's going to be a very close game. It's going to be a 1-score game for sure. I just couldn't tell you who will take it. I'm going to take the sorry, let me rephrase that. I take the Packers because they're home. However, it will be close.
I'm going to say 27-24 because 27 seems to be the magic number for the Packers this season. And I agree with you. I think it's going to be really close. I think it could come down to a last second field goal by either party. You know, that's kind of how these games went last year as well. And that's how the Bears are playing. You know, yeah, they won by 9 in Philly, but they're in a lot of one-score games, a lot of kind of last second field tilting moments where they're in positions to either put the game away or, you know, they come from behind and score in the waning moments to take the win. So I do think it's going to be a really tough game. I think it is going to harken back to, you know, what makes this division so special. Like, as somebody who lives on the Wisconsin-Illinois border, you know, I feel a certain way about the Bears the same way that our Wisconsin friends in the Northwest feel a certain way about Vikings fans. But it's, to me, always been like the most historic rivalry in sports. There's a lot of history there. George Halas is partially responsible for keeping the Packers afloat during the Lombardi era. Just a lot of respect for the organizations. So these are the games that make it really fun. And as much as we've enjoyed, you know, seeing Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre and Jordan Love come in and kind of extend this win streak that the Packers have had when they inherited a Bears team that was kind of bullying the Packers, I think you're a better football team when your division is good. You know, we saw kind of the 20 teens Packers just coast into the division title and then enter the playoffs and just get smacked around because they weren't playing anybody of value. So I think it's going to be a really good game. All of that long-winded to say that I really always enjoy these games, even though I absolutely hate them at the same time.
Well, I think that's the perfect way to end the show.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Enjoy your NFC North football on Thursday. Packers fans, obviously, it's another one. We already talked about it for the playoff seeding. Lions hosting the Cowboys. And then, yeah, really good football coming down the stretch here for all of the NFC North. The entire NFL, really. Playoff football is the best. You can find us at PWSS Podcast, Perry _ Goldstein, me at Maggie J. Loney. We'll be back Sunday or Monday, hopefully, to talk about a Packers win, talk about how they're the new face of the NFC North. We've really enjoyed reading your comments. You guys have been very active. It's been a ton of fun on YouTube, so keep those coming. If you are new to the channel, thank you so much for finding us and listening. We super appreciate you, and we're happy that we're here. You're here with us, so thank you, as always, for listening, and go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.